Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to share my experience and how should you try to think before you start working on Excel project. Okay. So this is entirely biased based on my opinion. So feel free to ignore if you don't comply with any one of those ideas. Okay. So this is my experience that I'm sharing based on my last 3 years of work. So I hope this will be helpful. So before you start working, before you start writing anything, doesn't matter if it's code, if it's Power Query code, if it's just formula or anything, you should try to do some thinking how you want to organize this, okay? And you need to answer a couple of questions, okay? So the first question is that what type of project is this? Is this a bigger project? Is this a smaller project? Is this project is going to be used by multiple people? If this project is going to be maintained for a long time in the future, or if this project is just for temporary cases, like you build that project and then you use this like let's say 2 or 3 days and then you throw it away. So you need to answer that question, and based on that answer the entire thing will change. Okay, so like if it's a throwaway project that you are just trying to do some understanding of the data or something like that, then you can just ignore building a reusable code, building clean code, and building something automated and so on, right? Because the amount of hour it will take to build something generic and clean and reusable doesn't justify the need, right? So you need to think from that perspective. Is this going to be maintained for a long time in the future, or is this going to be a generic solution that I will use over and over again and again, right? So you need to think from that perspective. And if it's in that scenario that if it's a long time project or if it's a short pet project or something like that, so if it's short project, then just try to build something that works. You don't need to be fancy about that, right? And if it's a long time project, then you should consider accordingly. So that's the first thing. The next thing is that let's consider that it's a long time project, because we are interested on that part. And if it's a short time project, then you just can do anything you want. Okay, it doesn't matter, because you'll just stop using that particular application. So if it's a long time project, the next thing is that think that what type of automation you need. Okay, so for example, let's suppose you need to bring data from external sources, like from folder or from a different Excel file or from a REST API or from any website, or you need to do some web scraping and so on. So think that and consider that, okay, what's the best way to do that? So if it's a REST API, normally I prefer Power Query. If I find out that this will require a lot of cleaning, we need to clean a lot of data before we start working on the clean data, right? In that case, I prefer the cleaning part on the Power Query and then the later automation part on the VBA, right? Just think that, okay, what will be the main task of this particular project? Is it like you need to do a lot of cleaning up, or if it's like reformatting things, then consider that, okay, maybe in that scenario we should do like Power Query. But if it's like some automation that only be able to do in VBA, then consider that as well. And there are a couple of scenarios where VBA is the perfect match, and I have discussed that in one of my previous video. I'll put that link in the cards. So that's one thing that you need to think that, okay, where should I focus more? Is it going to be Power Query based, or if it's a VBA based? And isolate that. Let's suppose in the same project you can do like one part is based on the Power Query, another part is based on the VBA. So just isolate that. You are not starting the work yet. You are just trying to understand that where should you focus much more. Okay. The next thing is that what are different type of parameters? Like suppose you want to give the user flexibility to choose their folder path, or just to type out their API key, or just to give them option to mention some parameters. Okay, in that case you should think about that, and you should design a setting sheet. Normally I do that. I just add a setting sheet and I just do like key value pair. Okay, so this is the key and this is the value. So let's suppose I want to read their API key. So I just give a option like this, mention the API key here, and maybe let's say folder path. Okay, and then put that value here. Okay, so I design a setting sheet where they can specify a different parameter. Okay, and for this folder path I put a short button that they can use. To click on that button, it will ask them to choose the folder path, and it will be nice instead of copy pasting the folder path here. So you'll just click on that button and it will just ask the user to select the folder path, get the folder path using VBA. Okay, so that's the way you should think that, okay, what are different type of parameter that I want to get from the user, and based on that design a setting sheet, design it like this or in any other way. And normally I prefer to add a note so that they understand that, okay, what this particular field is, so what should we do in this particular field. So like, folder path, what this means is this exported folder path. Normally I mention that in this caption field, but I do give a detailed explanation in the notes, like we should give the folder path in this way or so on, or where should we get this API key. So that is one thing. Consider that what are the different options that I want to take from the user. Okay, and based on that design a setting sheet. Now the next thing is that, let's suppose you need VBA or you need Power Query. Let's say consider the Power Query part. So normally from a couple of days ago I am considering to use group option. Okay, so like fx, that is going to hold my all of those functions. Let's say I'll build another group, that data sources. So these data sources will just bring the data, it will do nothing. It just bring the data from different data sources, like from file, from folder, from REST API. It will do no cleaning up, just bring the data. And this is important because I get formula.firewall error. You need to build this query and connection because it's accessing other query or so on. That's really painful. So consider grouping this data sources and then fx collection, and then maybe your main dumping queries. So what this will do, it will group those Power Queries that you need to maintain in the long term, right? Let's suppose if it's fx collection, most of the time you don't need to debug in fx, right? You don't need to do anything on these data sources most of the time. Or maybe let's say later on your data sources change to some other services, then you can just change the data sources part. You don't need to change anything on the other queries. So that's really helpful in the long term. So consider that. And then next scenario is that if you need VBA, okay, so consider organizing the code based on different approaches. Okay, so normally let's suppose what I do, I'll just import my utility function. Okay, so I do have function collection. It has a lot of function in this, a lot of function is there. So function collection, I import array operation and column matcher, that's necessary for that one. So I import that array operation related code. I import logger. Okay, like I do have a button, I think import default code or something like that. Okay, so like logger, so I bring that, and then I do have another for mapper. So these are utility codes that I do have, and then I just bring them before I start writing code manually. So this will help me a lot because most of the time I do have a built-in function that I can use. Okay, so consider that one. I do also add a constant module. It just hold all the constant, mod const. It's like this. It just hold all the constant. I do have a command, insert auto generated constant. I think auto generated constant. It just bring all the constant. It automatically generate all of those constant. So that's why I organize the VBA part, so that let's suppose I want to change some constant, I just need to look in this section. I don't need to look any other places. I just come here and then just change that constant. Okay, and this auto generated constant generate a lot of constant automatically for me, like different sheet name, different name range, SAP name, table name, and so on. And you'll see I have a prefix that help me to utilize this, like let's suppose I'm just saying okay range, and let's say I'm using name range, so it will be like named underscore. So it will just filter out that name range related constant for me, and it will be really helpful. And that's way you can organize the VBA part of this code. Okay, consider that, and consider reusable codes, like you have written and you have collection of all of the code, right? So try to consider that. And so that is another way you can organize the VBA part, and it will be really helpful. Okay, consider adding reusable code in the effects collection or array operation or sub collection. I think I have sub collection as well. If I want to work with list box, I do have list box related reusable code as well. So consider using reusable code and enriching your code library. Okay, so consider that. So that's before implementing anything. Okay, so like, you know, before writing anything, just do this, and then later on you can consider that, okay, how many sheets do you need, how many different kind of pivot tables you need, what are the different tables you need, and what are the different name range, and so on, and design that interface before writing the codes. Once you have designed the interface, then consider moving forward in the development phase. I have to make another video on the development phase, but for this video, this is what we should do before starting the project. That's it for this video. Let me know what you do before you start working on a project. If the project is really maintainable, you need to maintain in the future. That's it. Have a good day.